Sonic, you finally found your family.
Try to keep up.
I know it hasn't always been easy, but you didn't change who you are in here.
Yeah, in my lungs.
Or your heart.
There's been a high-level security breach. And we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance. Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Shadow's story began a lot like yours, Sonic. But where you found family and friends, Shadow found only pain and loss.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with the giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
You're a colorful bunch.
We don't want to fight you.
Actually, Sonic, I would like to fight.
No, no! My turn. Can we just talk about this? He's too powerful. Sonic! I can't believe I'm saying this, but we need you-know-who.
This is a bad idea.
When has that ever stopped me?
Doctor,
We have visitors.
this is sad, Robotnik. Even for you.
We need your help.
On one condition.
What? Do this! If I can't rule the world,
I might as well save it! I need room.
But, sir, I don't have the proper materials.
Found some.
when we're done, there won't be anything left.
Hey, no cheat code! What did you do?
What I had to. Welcome home, my boy.
It's impossible.
Is it?
It couldn't be.
Couldn't it?
Are you? In the saggy flesh.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. The Sonic 3 trailer just dropped. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here. They confirmed that Keanu Reeves is voicing Shadow, so we'll break it all down because he's officially canon to the universe of Sonic here.
Keanu! You are a national treasure.
When I find you.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus.
Pop Quiz Hotshot is sort of like a Samuel L. Jackson, Star Wars, Mace Windu, and MCU kind of thing going on here. Does this mean that Sonic is going to make a joke about how Shadow sounds a lot like the actor Keanu Reeves that he loves in one of his favorite movies, Speed? But all of you longtime Sonic fans probably recognized a lot of really big Easter eggs for the game lore. This is all based on Sonic 2 Adventure, too. When they reference Shadow's tragic backstory, it does get into a lot of the game lore. So we'll just point all that stuff out as we go through the trailer shot by shot, starting at the beginning. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Based on what they've said about the Sonic movies, it sounds like we're getting a Sonic cinematic universe. Like we just got the Knuckles TV show with a whole bunch of extra backstory there, especially with Black Doom. They slowly started to get into the Black Arms race inside the Sonic universe, but it was through the Knuckles TV show, so we'll see how they reference that when it gets to Shadow's backstory, because Black Doom is a big part of Shadow's backstory. The other real big casting announcement that isn't in the trailer as far as I can tell, like I don't think we see her unless her face is covered, is Kristen Ritter, who most people remember from the Marvel Netflix series Jessica Jones, a bunch of other stuff. She's done a ton of stuff. But notice she's wearing the gun uniform, so I'm assuming that unless she's playing some special character from the lore, and she might just be one of the gun agents, but it'd be weird for them to cast such a big person and for her to not be somebody from the game lore. So you can let me know in the comments who you think she's playing if she's just wearing the gun uniform. She could just be an agent. But they start the trailer with a bit of a recap of Sonic's story so far, and basically how he's come together with Knuckles and Tails, and they're all living together as a family in Green Hills. They start by having a race in the woods, which is the way they started the Knuckles TV show too, but it was Knuckles doing the race by himself. Most of that series was dedicated to Knuckles thinking of Green Hills as his actual home, like he slowly came around and started to feel like it was his actual home, not just a place that he'd been living for a little while. Eating a whole lot of Doritos. Yay for product placement. Anytime you see them playing their games during their run montages, usually it is a reference to them running through levels of the games. There's a quick montage at the beginning of the trailer with them running all over the world. This might be from later in the movie. They might just be putting clips from later in the film at the beginning here. All these scenes of them in London also look like they happen right before Robotnik resurfaces his ship, which has been hiding in London. There's a whole bunch of Jim Carrey's Robotnik across this trailer. Obviously, the big twist of the trailer is that they go to him for help with Shadow because of Shadow's backstory and how that ties to his own backstory with his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, who they also show during the trailer. Very much alive, Pop Robotnik. Also played by Jim Carrey, which I think is pretty hilarious. I am sure his Gerald Robotnik will be every bit as ridiculous as his actual Robotnik character, who's actually become way more game accurate now because he's gained so much weight since the events of Sonic 2. They started the trailer talking about Sonic's story so far and how things haven't been easy for him. They show a drawing that Sonic has made, like this is meant to be Sonic doing this drawing of his own backstory from the first movie. This is a drawing based on his original home and a game level and Longclaw, who is also from the games as well too. This scene of him running in the woods, spinning around is just more of him at the beginning of the movie probably having fun. They show the Paramount logo, but they use the Sonic rings, which they've done for all the Sonic movies so far. Then we see the facility where Shadow has been held captive in stasis for all these years. During the end of Sonic 2, they talk about Shadow's creation being over 50 years ago. They mention Project Shadow, which is a reference to the actual lore of the games. Project Shadow was Gerald Robotnik's project to try and cure immortality and incurable diseases because of Maria Robotnik. She had a disease that he was trying to fix, so that's the whole reason why he created Shadow in the first place. Shadow was created as a hybrid clone of DNA from Sonic's race and the Black Arms race, who serve as like the main antagonist for the entire Sonic series, like the real big boss. Like I said, they briefly referenced them during the Knuckles TV show, but it was a very, very loose reference, so we'll see how much they get into that during this movie. My guess is they would save them as like a big villain for like Sonic 4 or Sonic 5, or like one of the future Sonic movies. Generally, the plot of this movie seems like Shadow being the main antagonist for most of the film until the very end, which they tend to do in the Sonic movies. It's kind of the same arc of the Knuckles character, where he starts out being an enemy to Sonic, but then becomes his friend by the end. Because if you haven't played any of the Sonic games or you don't know any of the lore, Shadow isn't meant to be an evil character, but he does start out as an antagonist to Sonic. We learn for some reason Shadow escapes from his cryostasis at the Guardian Units of Nations, which is what this G symbol is. They imprisoned him over 50 years ago when they learned how powerful and dangerous he can be. Now, because this is all Project Shadow backstory from the games, I don't know if they're going to be doing Bio Lizard as well, too, because that was one of the main villains of the Sonic series, so maybe Shadow will help team up with them against that if that does show up during the movie. They also have a little bit of a joke here, because we are talking about the Sonic movies, and they tend to be pretty silly, of the one-gun soldier watching Shadow in stasis eating all the donuts. When he's telling Sonic and everyone about Shadow escaping from captivity, it looks like they're in the middle of a birthday party. Then we see Team Sonic going into action at what looks like Japan. It seems like that's where their first fight is, where they first face off against Shadow. We see the gun soldiers trying to stop Shadow after he escapes. He wastes them in no time flat, and wastes all of Team Sonic, too, including Knuckles. Notice when Sonic is investigating in the dark room here in the background, you can see toys that look like they're from the Sonic games. He starts talking about Shadow's backstory. It began a lot like yours, Sonic, only it ended in tragedy, showing you a scene of how he befriended Maria Robotnik after he was created. They show the three of them going on their little race at probably the beginning of the movie. This is probably how the movie opens. When Shadow talks about only finding pain, you see the cracked glass in front of him here. That's probably the death of Maria Robotnik. In the lore of the game, she's actually the cousin of Eggman or Robotnik. It's not really clear if Robotnik knows about her backstory, but because Gerald Robotnik is a big part of the movie, they'll probably get into that familial relationship. When they go to him for help with Shadow, and he eventually goes to his grandfather and learns that he's still alive, Pop Robotnik, they'll probably learn more about why Gerald Robotnik created Shadow in the first place. So at least at the beginning of the film, my assumption is that Robotnik doesn't really know that much about Shadow yet. This looks like a scene of Shadow and jailed Robotnik after Maria's death, with Gunn coming to basically put Shadow in cryostasis. They start fighting Shadow in Japan. We get another joke from Knuckles, who says that he's way more badass than Sonic, the other hedgehog quote-unquote that he fought previously. And we finally get Keanu Reeves doing dialogue as Shadow. You're a colorful bunch. He doesn't talk that much during the trailer, so my assumption is that he also doesn't talk that much during the actual movie. Very John Wick style, but done in the Shadow universe. If you go back and you watch all the John Wick movies, which is funny because Shadow also fights with a gun in the games as well too, I don't think he'll be using a gun that much during the movie. Maybe there'll be like a light reference to that. But in all the John Wick movies, he barely has any dialogue. We get the joke about Knuckles actually wanting to fight, and then we see some of Shadow's abilities and how he's a little bit more powerful than Sonic and Knuckles right now. A lot of his abilities are similar to Sonic's, but in the movie they're differentiating him a little bit by showing his ability is a little bit more like teleporting, like he's even faster than Sonic because he's teleporting. You get the funny reveal of Knuckles realizing that he's bitten off more than he can chew. Shadow teleports again and kicks both Tails and Sonic's butt. Also, because they're fighting in Japan here, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a joke about the actual Sega building somewhere around here. Then we get the reveal of them going to Robotnik and finding him and asking him for help because Shadow is too much for them. And we find out that he's basically been hiding out since the events of Sonic 2 after he slunk away and escaped in London, like right under everyone's noses. This seems like Shadow escaping from that little island where they've been keeping him, just running across the water super fast. This is just more of him taking out all the gun guards that were trying to watch him. RIP to all these red shirts. Not sure where they're fighting Shadow here, but you see Shadow open a portal and everything getting sucked into it. And we see Agent Stone with Robotnik coming back in another one of his creations, now shaped like a crab. And we see that he's basically gone full Howard Hughes recluse with all these food wrappers and fast food around him, which is how he gained all that weight. Now looking way more game accurate. They make a bunch of jokes about that too when he's suiting up as well too, like he suits up, stealing some clothes, some extra fabric from Agent Stone so that he looks more game accurate. And it sounds like one of his conditions for helping them is one of Sonic's quills so they can get more energy to power his stuff. Now, because they're teasing Robotnik being good in this movie, I would not be surprised if he winds up turning evil at the very end of the film, again, trying to betray them again, because it's kind of what happened with him and Knuckles during the second movie. Like, this might just be a larger version of that, where he pretends to help them until eventually Shadow becomes good and starts working with Sonic to stop Robotnik again. Because even though Black Doom is technically like the biggest villain inside the Sonic universe, I don't know if they're ready for Black Doom to be the actual main villain of a film yet. Generally, it feels like things will fall back into their normal rhythm, which is Robotnik being the actual main villain to Sonic. Notice in the bathroom on his ship, it has a little Robotnik symbol based on the games. This looks like Sonic using his rings to portal him and Robotnik to an abandoned facility. This might be where he finds jailed Robotnik, his grandfather. Not sure what Shadow is doing here, where you see all the power going out across Japan. This might have something to do with his Chaos Control power, where he can warp time and space using the Chaos Emeralds. There's a little bit of the Chaos Control song across the trailer too, from the Sonic games. We see him fighting Sonic on his motorcycle, which is also based on the games. Sonic even mentions cheat codes, another game reference. Not sure who's attacking them at the birthday party here. This is them all learning about the existence of Shadow and how he escaped at the beginning of the movie. We get a much longer scene of them fighting in the sky with him jumping off of his motorcycle in the middle of the sky. Then as they attack each other, it changes to the Spin Attack logo from both of them and the logo around the 3. And we get the scene of Robotnik going to see himself essentially because it's Jim Carrey playing his grandfather, jailed Robotnik. Notice some of his designs seem similar to Robotnik's designs. This all seems like the wreckage of original Project Shadow from over 50 years ago. Like I said, because of this, I think we are getting more Robotnik backstory as well too, learning more about his family, because we have to learn about Maria Robotnik because of Shadow's backstory. But everyone let me know in the comments, if they don't get really into Black Doom that much during this or the Black Arms race, who do you think will ultimately be the main villain of this film? Like, will Robotnik just turn evil again at the very end of the film as Shadow turns good? Just because I don't think they end this movie with Shadow being the main villain. There's a bunch of game references during the trailer, so if there's any that you spotted that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments, because I'm sure there's going to be a billion more during the actual movie. It's coming out December this year, so it's not that far off. We'll probably get another big trailer in the next couple of months with a little bit more of the actual story. I just did videos for a bunch of big trailers from D23. Click here to learn about Deadpool and Wolverine's alternate ending with a whole bunch of deleted scenes and alternate takes, and click here for all those D23 trailers. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.